High Commander Varlock stretched his 4 upper limbs and rolled his neck, producing a series of satisfying clicks that echoed through the command deck of the hegemony flagship Eternal Dominance. The massive viewscreen before him displayed that same frustrating blue marble Earth hanging against the backdrop of endless stars. 300 years of monitoring. 300 years of transmissions sent on every conceivable frequency. 300 years of absolutely nothing in return. Status report on the silent planet, Varlock demanded, not bothering to look at Lieutenant Praz, who stood nervously at attention behind him. No change, High Commander. Earth remains as silent as it has been for the past 3 centuries. Our probes detect their primitive communications, but they've never once acknowledged our presence. Varlock snorted. 97 worlds brought into the glorious embrace of the hegemony, 97 species now serving their rightful masters. And then this annoying little pebble. The High Commander tapped his control panel, bringing up holographic displays of Earth's major cities, satellite networks, and defense systems. To any hegemony citizen, they would appear laughably primitive. Projectile weapons? Radio waves? Combustion engines? The hegemony had moved beyond such technologies millennia ago. You know what the most infuriating part is, Lieutenant? They can clearly hear us. Their instruments have detected our signals, we've confirmed this. They simply choose not to respond. Lieutenant Praz shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand, sir? Varlock whirled around, his facial membranes flaring in annoyance. Primitive? Yes, stupid? No. Look at their entertainment broadcasts. Their science fiction programs. They've imagined 1,000 different ways we might contact them. They know we're out here. He gestured dismissively at the blue planet. They're like a child hiding under blankets, thinking if they can't see us, we can't see them. Perhaps we should simply proceed with standard subjugation protocols, sir. The Armada stands ready. Varlock returned his gaze to Earth. No. The Supreme Council finds this planet amusing. A curiosity in our collection. The silent world that refuses our generous offers of advancement. Besides, there's nothing particularly valuable there that we can't find elsewhere with less nuisance. What Varlock couldn't admit, not to his subordinate, not to anyone, was that Earth's silence was the only thing in the universe that still genuinely puzzled him. And after 900 years of existence, puzzles were becoming increasingly rare and precious. The alarm blared with such sudden ferocity that Varlock spilled his cup of fermented neutron juice all over his ceremonial command robes. The sticky purple liquid seeped into the fabric, creating what would undoubtedly become a permanent stain. Just perfect. Whiff. What in the 7 collapsing suns is going on? He bellowed, wiping ineffectually at his ruined garment. Lieutenant Praz was frantically working at his console, his 6-fingered hands flying over the holographic controls. Sir, incoming transmission. From Earth. Varlock froze. Repeat that. It's a directed transmission, sir, aimed specifically at our communication array. They know exactly where we are. The command deck erupted into chaos as officers scrambled to their stations. Varlock strode forward, forgetting entirely about his stained robes. Put it through. Now. The massive viewscreen flickered, and for a moment Varlock expected to see some pompous human leader in an outdated uniform, finally ready to acknowledge the hegemony's supremacy. Instead, there was only text, 4 simple words in perfect hegemonic script. Ready when you are. Is that it? Varlock asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, High Commander. That's the entire message. Science Officer Nix Biddle hurried onto the command deck, her translucent exoskeleton glimmering under the ship's lights. I came as soon as I heard. After 3 centuries of silence, they send this? Varlock turned to her. What does it mean? Is it a surrender? A challenge? Nix Biddle's compound eyes flickered rapidly, her species equivalent of a thoughtful frown. It's deliberately ambiguous, sir. They've used our language perfectly, suggesting they've been studying us extensively. But the message itself could mean anything. Ready for what? Invasion? Trade negotiations? A game of interstellar checkers? Varlox growled, his patience wearing thin. Perhaps they're signaling their readiness for formal first contact, Nix Betel suggested. Though why wait 300 years to say 4 words is beyond my understanding. Varlox paced the command deck, his claws clicking against the polished floor. Or perhaps they've finally developed weapons they believe can challenge us, and this is their primitive attempt at intimidation. Impossible, Lieutenant Praz scoffed. Our last scan showed them barely achieving rudimentary quantum communication. They're at least 500 years from developing anything that could threaten a hegemony scout ship, let alone the Armada. Then why break their silence now? Varlox mused. And how did they learn our language so perfectly? After several moments of tense silence, Nix Betel spoke. There's only one way to find out, High Commander. We must go to Earth. Varlox nodded slowly. Prepare my personal shuttle and a diplomatic delegation, and alert the Dreadnought Division. If this is some form of primitive challenge, we'll respond accordingly. And if it's a genuine invitation to peaceful contact? Nix Betel asked. Varlox's mouth split into what passed for a smile in his species, a terrifying display of serrated teeth. Then we'll graciously accept right before we add Earth to our collection of subjugated worlds. Either way, their silence ends now. More polishing. I want to see my reflection in every surface of this ship. Varlox barked at a team of maintenance drones. The humans may be primitive, but they'll still appreciate the difference between a merely spectacular warship and a truly awe-inspiring one. The preparation bay of the Hegemony flagship bustled with activity. Massive ion devastator cannons were being calibrated for maximum visual impact, set to glow an intimidating crimson even when powered down. Armor plating was being polished to a mirror shine, and the ceremonial flags of 97 conquered worlds fluttered from specially installed poles. Nix Betel approached, stepping carefully around a squad of elite vaporizer troops practicing their synchronized weapon display. Is all this really necessary, High Commander? Our scans indicate the humans have nothing that could even scratch our defensive shields. Varlox adjusted his new, immaculately pressed command robes. You weren't there for the Proxima Centauri subjugation, were you, Science Officer? No, sir. That was before my time. Magnificent species, 6 limbs, telepathic abilities, cities that floated in the clouds. Varlox sighed nostalgically. Their technology was almost comparable to ours. Almost. But do you know what broke them in the end? Not our weapons. Not our shields. It was when we arrived with the ceremonial doom parade, 5,000 warships in perfect formation, each one gleaming like a newborn star. Psychological warfare. Nix Betel nodded. Precisely. The humans need to understand their place in the cosmos from the moment we arrive. It saves time and ammunition. Varlox checked his appearance in a nearby reflective panel. Speaking of which, have you studied the reports from our previous conquests? Nix Betel pulled up a holographic display. Yes, sir. 97 successful planetary subjugations with an average resistance time of 3.4 solar days. Our longest campaign was against the Draxolites, nearly a full standard month. Ah, the Draxolites. Now there was a worthy opponent. Varlox chuckled. Shape-shifters who could turn into perfect copies of our own troops. And we had to install those ridiculous genetic scanners on every ship. Cost a fortune. The shortest was the Whisper people of Epsilon Eridani, surrendered the moment our ships entered orbit. Varlox snorted. Cowards. No sport in that. What's your assessment of these humans, Science Officer? How long will they resist? Nix Betel hesitated. They're unusual, sir. Most species either immediately respond to our contact attempts or try to hide their technological development. The humans have done neither. They've simply watched us. for 3 centuries. And that makes them what? Cautious? Stupid? Paralyzed by indecision? It makes them unpredictable, sir, and in my 900 years serving the hegemony, I've learned that unpredictable species can sometimes be. Interesting, Varlox interrupted with a dismissive wave, but ultimately just another name on our list. He gestured to the fluttering flags above them, soon to be number 98. Lieutenant Praz hurried over, nearly colliding with a team of engineers testing gravitational manipulators. All preparations complete, High Commander. The Armada awaits your command. Varlox straightened his posture, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Then let us introduce ourselves properly to Earth. It's been waiting 300 years for this moment. Let's make sure it doesn't disappoint. The Hegemony Armada burst into Earth's solar system with calculated theatrical flair. 5,000 warships of varying sizes materialized simultaneously, their quantum engines leaving ripples in space-time visible even to primitive human instruments. The formation was perfect, a massive, three-dimensional arrow pointed directly at Earth, with Varlox's flagship positioned at the tip. Behold! Varlox exclaimed to no one in particular. The greatest display of military might this pathetic planet has ever witnessed. Lieutenant Praz cleared his throat awkwardly. Sir, our sensors are detecting something unusual. Unusual how? Are they launching their primitive nuclear weapons? Activating some sort of planetary shield we didn't detect? No, sir. They're broadcasting a welcome message on all frequencies. And they've arranged their naval vessels in what appears to be a smiley face formation. A what? Varlox rushed to the view screen, which zoomed in to show dozens of Earth's largest watercraft arranged in the unmistakable pattern of a simplistic smiling face. Nix Bedel studied her readings with growing confusion. They've also prepared a landing zone, High Commander, in a place called New York Central Park. They've cleared civilians, set up what appears to be a stage with sound equipment, and are those refreshment stands? Varlox's eye membranes flickered rapidly in disbelief. Let me hear this welcome message. The command deck speakers crackled to life with a cheerful human voice. Greetings, galactic hegemony vessels. Earth extends its warmest welcome to High Commander Varlox and his delegation. We've prepared a reception area with appropriate accommodations for your various physiological needs. The Secretary General looks forward to meeting you personally. Oh, whoa. And we've prepared a selection of Earth's most popular snack foods for you to try. Our scientists analyzed your biological scans and believe you'll particularly enjoy something called hot dogs. Though we assure you no actual canines were harmed in their production. A stunned silence fell over the command deck. They know my name, Varlox finally said, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. They know our biological composition. How? Nix Bedel looked troubled, and they've arranged all this in the 12 hours since we received their transmission, almost as if they knew we were coming before they contacted us, Varlox finished. He stared at the smiling face formation of ships below them. This is some sort of trap. Our scans show no weapons beyond their standard naval armaments, Lieutenant Praz reported. Their most advanced defense systems are primitive missile interceptors and electromagnetic pulse generators. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest scout ship. Varlox drummed his claws on the command console. So they welcome their conquerors with refreshments and entertainment? Either they're fools, or they're playing some game I don't yet understand. His posture straightened. No matter, we'll accept their hospitality while assessing their resources. Please prepare my shuttle and a security detail. You're still going down there? Nix Bedel asked, surprise evident in her voice. Of course. Varlox's mouth stretched into his terrifying approximation of a smile. I'm curious about these hot dogs, and I want to see the looks on their faces when I inform them of their new status as subjects of the hegemony. Besides, he added, gesturing to the massive armada surrounding them, What could possibly go wrong? The United Nations headquarters had been redecorated for the occasion. Gone were the familiar emblems of Earth nations, replaced with a single unified Earth flag, a simple blue sphere on a black background. The General Assembly Hall had been modified to accommodate various alien physiologies, with special seating for the 4 armed hegemony delegates and atmospheric regulators for those requiring different breathing mixtures. Varlock sat across from Secretary General Amara Okafor, a tall woman with close-cropped silver hair and piercing eyes that hadn't stopped studying him since his arrival. On either side of her sat what humans called their unified delegation scientists, military leaders and diplomats from various regions. "I must say," Varlox began, setting down what was indeed a surprisingly palatable hot dog, "your hospitality is commendable. Most species tremble or fire ineffectual weapons when we arrive." "We're not most species," Okafor replied with a pleasant smile that somehow didn't reach her eyes. "Indeed. Most species also respond when we spend 3 centuries trying to contact them." At this, Dr. Jackson Tate, the delegation's lead scientist, chuckled. "Ah, yes, about that? We've been meaning to address our prolonged silence." Varlox leaned forward. "Please do." Okafor nodded to someone in the back of the room, and the lights dimmed slightly. The holographic display, crude by hegemony standards, but surprisingly functional, appeared between them. "We received your first transmission exactly 302 years, 147 days, and 14 hours ago," Tate began, as the hologram showed a recording of that very transmission one Varlox himself had studied in the archives. It was detected by what was then called the Allen Telescope Array. Within 48 hours we had confirmed it was non-terrestrial in origin. Within a week, our best linguists and mathematicians were working to decode it. "Yet you never responded," Varlox said, trying to keep the irritation from his voice. Ambassador Lin Wei, a serene-looking older man, smiled gently. "Actually, High Commander, we responded immediately. Just not in the way you expected." The hologram shifted to show historical footage of Earth's governments meeting in emergency sessions, followed by rapid technological developments, satellites being modified, new research facilities being built. "You see," Okafor continued, "humanity has a rich history of imagining first contact scenarios. Some hopeful, many less so. When an actual alien civilization contacted us, we made a collective decision. To hide under your blankets like frightened children?" Varlox suggested, repeating his earlier metaphor. General Diana Maxwell, the military representative, barked a laugh that contained no humor. "No, Commander. To watch, learn, and prepare." The hologram changed again, this time showing what appeared to be Varlox froze. It was internal footage from various hegemony conquests. The subjugation of the telepathic cloud dwellers of Proxima Centauri. The systematic dismantling of the Draxolite defense network. Images no human should have access to. "How did you?" he began, but Okafor cut him off with a wave. "Your encryption is impressive, but not impenetrable. While you thought we were merely receiving your broadcasts, we were actually accessing your entire communications network. For 3 centuries. We've studied every aspect of your 97 conquests, every tactic, every technology, every weakness." Varlox felt his blood run cold. "Impossible. Your technology is centuries behind ours." Dr. Tate smiled. "Is it?" He pulled out what looked like a simple metallic sphere and placed it on the table. "This is what we call an adaptive quantum field generator. It's based on the technology you used to subjugate the Andromeda Coalition 50 years ago, but with several improvements." "That's a lie," Varlox hissed. "You couldn't possibly." Tate activated the device. Instantly, every piece of hegemony technology in the room, from Varlox's personal shields to the communication devices of his guards, went completely dead. "We've been selective about what technology we display publicly," General Maxwell explained, seemingly enjoying the shock on Varlox's face. "Those primitive missile systems and electromagnetic pulses? theater, for your benefit. You see, Commander. Okafor leaned forward, her pleasant diplomatic demeanor giving way to something harder. Humans have one trait that your previous 97 conquests lacked: extreme adaptability paired with healthy paranoia. We didn't evolve as the dominant species on a planet full of predators by being trusting or slow to learn. Varlox looked at his dead technology, then back at the humans. For the first time in his 900-year existence, he felt something unfamiliar crawling up his spine. Was this fear? While you were watching us, Ambassador Lin said softly, we were watching you. While you were planning our subjugation, we were developing countermeasures to every weapon in your arsenal. You believed our silence was ignorance. In reality, it was the sound of humanity working very, very quietly. You're bluffing, Varlox said, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. One small device cannot possibly affect our entire armada. Dr. Tate exchanged amused glances with his colleagues. This? He gestured to the metallic sphere on the table. This is just a demonstration model. The actual system is somewhat larger. General Maxwell tapped a command into her wristband. The holographic display shifted to show a live feed from space. Varlox's hearts nearly stopped. Surrounding Earth, previously invisible to their sensors, was a network of satellites, thousands of them, arranged in a complex three-dimensional grid. Each one pulsed with energy that matched the signature of the device on the table. As Varlox watched, the pulse synchronized across the entire network, creating a wave that expanded outward through the solar system. No, he whispered. Yes, Okafor replied simply. From his delegation's panicked expressions, Varlox knew what was happening before his lieutenant's voice crackled through his emergency backup communicator, the only piece of technology still functioning. Commander. All systems across the Armada are shutting down. Weapons, shields, engines, everything. We're drifting. Varlox lunged to his feet, overturning his chair. This is an act of war. The hegemony will. Will what? General Maxwell interrupted, remaining casually seated. Your ships are currently floating uselessly in space. Don't worry, life support systems remain operational. We're not monsters. In 5,000 warships, Ambassador Lin mused, all neutralized without a single shot fired. I believe that sets a new record for your hegemony, does it not? The previous fastest surrender was the Whisper people at what was it? 6 standard hours after your arrival? How? Varlox demanded, his composure crumbling. How is this possible? You're primitives. 300 years ago you were barely splitting atoms. Dr. Tate smiled like a teacher pleased with a student's question. That's the fascinating thing about human progress, Commander. It's exponential, not linear. And when properly motivated, say, by the threat of alien conquest, it accelerates remarkably. But more importantly, added Dr. Eliza Rosario, a neuroscientist who had been silent until now, humans possess an extraordinary capacity for pattern recognition. While other species might develop technologies independently, we excel at taking existing ideas and improving them in unexpected ways. We noticed this trait was consistently underestimated in your previous conquests, General Maxwell said. The Draxolites, for instance, had superior biological adaptation but poor technological innovation. The Andromeda Coalition had advanced quantum theory but failed to apply it defensively. We studied how you defeated each species, Okafor explained, and we recognized the patterns in your tactical approach. Then we designed our response specifically to counter it. Your species is arrogant, Commander Varlox, Ambassador Lin said without malice, simply stating a fact. You assume technological superiority equals inevitable victory. But our history has repeatedly shown that the most dangerous adversary isn't always the one with the most advanced weapons. Dr. Rosario leaned forward. It's the one that learns, adapts, and waits for the perfect moment to act. The realization hit Varlox like a gravitational collapse. "You weren't hiding," he said slowly. "You were hunting, studying your prey." "Not exactly," Okafor corrected. "We were simply being cautious. If you had come in peace, genuinely offering alliance rather than conquest, we would have welcomed you. But we've seen how the hegemony treats lesser species. The Proxima Centauri genocide was particularly enlightening." Varlox sank back into his chair. For 900 years he had led the hegemony's expansion, confident in their superiority, their right to rule. Never once had he considered that a primitive species might be silently watching, learning, and preparing for this exact moment. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "You destroy our ships? Take our technology? Demand reparations for the 97 worlds we've conquered?" General Maxwell barked another laugh. "Destroy 5,000 ships full of people who were just following orders? What kind of barbarians do you think we are?" "No, Commander," Okafor said, her expression softening slightly. "We have a different proposal." She nodded to Dr. Tate, who activated another control. The disruptive field from the device on the table withdrew, restoring function to Varlox's personal technology. "What we want," Okafor continued, "is for you to return to your hegemony with a message and a choice." On the table, another hologram appeared, detailed schematics for the technology that had just neutralized the entire hegemony fleet. "You see," Ambassador Lin explained, "we could have revealed ourselves at any point in the past 2 centuries, once we developed sufficient countermeasures. But we waited. We wanted to be absolutely certain we understood who we were dealing with. And what we discovered," Dr. Rosario added, "is that the hegemony isn't evil, just stagnant. You've conquered 97 worlds because that's all you know how to do. You've stopped innovating, stopped adapting. You simply apply the same tactics with increasingly shinier weapons." Varlox stared at the humans, the truth of their words sinking in. They hadn't been silent out of fear or ignorance. They had been silent out of strategic patience, the one trait the hegemony had never encountered in all its conquests. "An alliance?" Varlox repeated, certain he had misheard. "You neutralize our entire fleet, demonstrate technology we thought impossible, and then offer friendship?" Secretary General Okafor smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "Yes, Commander. That's precisely what we're offering." "We don't want to conquer the hegemony," General Maxwell explained, her earlier hardness giving way to something more pragmatic. "Frankly, it would be a logistical nightmare. 97 subjugated species with varying needs, grievances, and biological requirements? No, thank you. What we want," Ambassador Lin said, "is to join the galactic community. On equal terms. Not as conquerors or the conquered." Dr. Tate gestured to the schematic still hovering above the table. "Your scientists could spend decades trying to reverse engineer this technology. Or we could simply share it, along with dozens of other innovations we've developed, in exchange for knowledge, cultural exchange, and a commitment to reform how the hegemony approaches new civilizations." Varlox stared at the humans, trying to process this unexpected turn. In 900 years of conquest, no species had ever gained the upper hand against the hegemony, let alone shown mercy afterward. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why not use this advantage to ensure your own safety? To dominate as we have?" Dr. Rosario leaned forward. "Because that's not who we are. Not anymore, at least. Our history is filled with empires that rose and fell, with conquerors who believed their power would last forever. We've learned those lessons the hard way. Besides," General Maxwell added with a smirk, "conquest is inefficient. Trade, cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, these create more value in the long run than subjugation ever could." Varlox looked from face to face around the table, searching for deception and finding none. These humans, these supposedly primitive beings who had just orchestrated the most comprehensive defeat in hegemony history, were genuinely offering partnership instead of retribution. "The choice is yours," Commander Okafor said quietly. "Return to the Supreme Council with tales of Earth's treachery and unfathomable weapons, sparking a war neither side truly wants, or return as the architect of the most significant diplomatic achievement in hegemony history and alliance with a species unlike any you've encountered before." For the first time in centuries, Varlox felt something unexpected, genuine curiosity about another species. Not as subjects to rule, but as equals with something valuable to offer. "I believe," he said slowly, "that the Supreme Council would be most interested in learning why one silent planet succeeded where 97 others failed." As Varlox left Earth's atmosphere hours later, in a shuttle restored to full functionality by the humans themselves, he gazed down at the blue marble that had puzzled him for so long. The hegemony had mistaken silence for weakness, patience for fear.